So this year for horror has not been a great year, but it's not been a terrible year either. But there has been a lot of middle of the road movies. Last year was much better in terms of quality horror. But nonetheless, here is my list of the top 5 worst horror movies of 2023. Number 5, Insidious: The Red Door. I was never really a big fan of the Insidious franchise. The first one was good, and then I think the franchise went on for too long. Insidious is directed by one of the franchise's mainstay actors, Patrick Wilson, and I have to say that this is not really a great directorial debut. It is a serviceable direction, but it is noticeable that it is his first movie as a director. The direction isn't terrible, but it will get better as time goes if he pursues being a director. The biggest problem with this movie is the script. The script is really not giving anyone anything new. There has also been a lot of time between this movie and the last movie that was made. But the script struggles to tell us a story that gives us something new about this franchise and this world. The scares are also very far and few in between, and not very well executed. This was just kind of a boring mess. And with boring, I mean there is nothing that drives the story from the previous movies forward. The only good character development in this movie is the development between the father and the son. You don't get any development about the demons either. They were an interesting part of this franchise, but they don't get any interesting developments at all. There are some unintentionally hilarious scenes in this movie, and the third act just falls apart. So this is a franchise that is best to just leave alone, at least for a while. Number 4, The Pope's Exorcist. When I saw the trailer for this movie, I was quite excited because it's not often that you get a horror movie with Russell Crowe. There are not many actors of his caliber that are in horror movies. And it uses the same gimmick that it was based on true events and based on a real man, a real priest. And Russell Crowe does his best here, but he's really wasted in this role. They could have at least given him a script that plays on his strengths as an actor, because he's a very good actor. Instead, they just give him an Italian accent and let him fumble around in a castle. They are even alluding to building a franchise around this character, and it just doesn't work. This is of course a demon possession movie, but it doesn't do anything new, anything imaginative, and it just falls apart in a very messy final third of the movie. You get the tropes like the deep growling demon voices, small kids that are possessed, that say things that we have seen before in very many movies before this one. The only good thing about this movie are the visuals and the performances from the actors. Russell Crowe is trying his best, but the script just simply doesn't give him much to work with. So it definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 3, Five Nights at Freddy's. One thing I have to say about this is that I have not played any of these games. So I'm not part of the fandom of this world, but I do think when you produce a movie, it should work as a movie. It should work for a wider audience and not just for the people that have played these games for years. So by just seeing this movie without playing these games beforehand and knowing what happens and the lore and just judging it by the movie itself, it's just not a good movie. It's not a good horror movie, and it's not a good movie period. The movie really has troubles in many areas. Dialogue, character motivations, character arcs, story plot points. The plot point that starts this story is very stupid. The main character is working as a security guard at a mall and he sees a man dragging a little girl with him out of the mall, thinking it's a predator or something like that, but it turns out to be the girl's father. He knocks the guy out before even asking any questions about what is happening, at least asking the girl what is happening, and that is what starts off the story. The main character gets fired and gets transferred to being a security guard at Fazbear's Pizzeria. And stuff starts happening, the animatronics come to life. It is a very predictable movie. You get a villain with a very badly written motivation. The motivation of the villain doesn't make sense with what has been set up beforehand in the movie. And how the story plays out, it is very predictable. I was happy seeing Matthew Lillard back in a bigger role in a quite big movie. But he is one of the reasons why the movie is predictable. His character is, in the way he's written and what he offers to the main character. There are a couple of scenes that work very well with the animatronics in the movie, but overall this premise could have been much better. Number 2, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
You were remembering how things were, right? You can't stop. The good is still in there, Pooh.
This could have been just an over-the-top, very fun movie. The premise of taking very well-known Disney characters and turning them into horror slasher characters is a very fun idea. But this just does nothing interesting with the premise it has. They are just basically adding these known characters and adding gore to it. With a small setup, and then it's just blood and gore and kill after kill after kill. And even that is in no way original. The reason they even got these characters is that the Winnie Pooh franchise is partly free domain. Some parts are free domain to do whatever you want with, but they basically do nothing with it. The tone is all over the place. It's too camp to be taken seriously, and it's not funny enough to be taken as a parody. The backstory is not fun either, even though the sketch and the style of the backstory being presented in the beginning of the movie is nicely animated. Winnie the Pooh and Piglet are just two men in masks. It's entertaining when they go out and kill these people, but it's just that. The people they are killing are not real characters, they are there just to be killed. It's clear that the creators behind this movie just took these childhood characters and just made them into slasher killers. And that's their only draw. The performances are bad, the writing is bad, the cinematography is bad, every single thing is bad in this movie. There is a sequel coming out next year though, and I really hope it's better than this. The movie was made on a minimal budget, so it's made its money back and then some. It will be released in February next year and will have more of these characters like Tigger and Owl. I'm not really looking forward to it. And my number 1 is Pet Sematary Bloodlines. This was just an unnecessary entry in the Pet Sematary franchise. This has a really bad script all over. Badly written characters with badly written motivations. Things just happen and they happen in a very fast way. You don't get to settle in, and what's even worse, the director doesn't know how to work with the horror elements, the horror scenes, and build up tension. Useless flashbacks that show what's happened exactly before a scene actually happens. Bad dialogue that thinks the audience is stupid. Dialogue that is already explaining a very dumb and boring story. New mythology is presented without any reason, and the main characters are very boring and useless. The only one of the actors that has a pretty good performance is Henry Thomas. Yes, the kid from E.T. But if you want to see a good performance from him, I would rather more suggest The House of Usher. Because I would rather watch paint dry than to rewatch this again. So this has been my list of the top 5 worst horror movies of 2023. I hope everyone had a good Christmas, and if you liked this video, please like, share and subscribe. This has been Boogeyman Cinema. Thank you for watching, and I see you next year. What are your top 5 worst horror movies of 2023? Comment below.